The vast expanse of the Milky Way trembled with fear. A name whispered in the darkest corners of space sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest alien warriors. Voidstalkers. These terrifying predators had emerged from the unknown depths of the galaxy, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. On the bustling planet of Zorth, home to the Galactic Council, urgent alarms blared through the crystal spires of the Central Command Center. Counselor Xyla, a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms, rushed into the emergency meeting chamber. His normally calm demeanor was shattered, replaced by sheer panic. They'd struck again. Xylop's voice boomed across the room. The Void Stalkers have decimated the Krillix home world. An entire civilization, gone in mere hours. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from 100 different species argued and shouted, their translator devices struggling to keep up with the cacophony of alien languages. Silence, thundered Grand Arbiter Zine, her crystalline form glowing with authority. As the room quieted, she continued, "This is the 5th advanced civilization to fall in as many solar cycles. We must act now, or there will be nothing left of our galactic community." A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber. It showed a series of planets, each one blinking out as the Voidstalker's path of destruction was traced across the galaxy. The sight sent a collective shudder through the assembled representatives. "Our best weapons are useless against them," said General Kraz, a grizzled veteran from the warrior planet Torg. "Their ships seem to absorb energy attacks, and they move faster than anything we've ever encountered." As the council debated futilely, a junior aide rushed into the chamber, clutching a datapad. "Urgent news," he gasped. "We've detected a new civilization entering interstellar space. They call themselves humans." The chamber fell silent. In the midst of this galactic crisis, the emergence of a new spacefaring race was usually cause for celebration. But now it felt like a death sentence. "We must warn them," cried Counselor Xyla. "They have no idea of the danger they're flying into." Grand Arbiter Zine nodded solemnly. "Prepare a first contact team immediately. We cannot in good conscience allow another species to fall victim to the Voidstalkers." Light years away on the blue-green planet Earth, humanity was celebrating its greatest achievement. The first faster-than-light ship, the HS Horizon, was preparing for its maiden voyage. In Houston, Texas, mission control was a hive of activity. Dr. Emily Chen, lead astrophysicist for the Horizon project, stared at her monitors with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "All systems are go," she reported. "The Horizon is ready for its first jump." Captain Michael Rodriguez, seated in the Horizon's command chair, took a deep breath. "Copy that, Houston. Initiating FTL drive in 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the viewscreen blurred, and in a flash of brilliant light, the Horizon leaped into the unknown. Humanity had taken its first step into the greater galaxy. But as the crew of the Horizon celebrated their successful jump, they were unaware of the dangers lurking in the cosmic darkness. The Voidstalkers, alerted to the energy signature of the human ship, turned their hungry gaze towards Earth. Back on Zorth, the Galactic Council's first contact team raced against time. They had to reach the humans before the Voidstalkers did. The fate of yet another species hung in the balance. As the human exploration team ventured further into space, blissfully unaware of the looming threat, the galaxy held its breath. Would these newcomers become the next victims of the Voidstalkers' relentless hunger? Or could they, perhaps, bring something new to the fight? A fresh perspective that might turn the tide against the galaxy's deadliest predators. The stage was set for a cosmic drama unlike any other. Humanity's first steps into the galactic community would be baptized in fire, facing a threat that had brought even the mightiest alien civilizations to their knees. The clock was ticking, and the survival of not just Earth, but countless worlds, hung in the balance. The Galactic Council's emergency alert reached Earth just as the HS at Horizon was preparing for its second jump. The message was clear: A terrible danger threatened the galaxy, and humanity needed to turn back immediately. In the White House Situation Room, world leaders gathered to discuss this shocking first contact. President Laura Thompson, a tall woman with steely gray eyes, addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, it seems we've stepped into a galactic war zone." Dr. Emily Chen, called in from Houston, explained the situation. "The Void Stalkers are unlike anything we've ever imagined. They've destroyed entire civilizations far more advanced than ours." A heavy silence fell over the room. General Marcus Stone, a burly man with a scared face, spoke up. "So what do we do? Hide and hope they don't find us?" It was then that Dr. Sarah Lee, a wildlife biologist known for her work with Earth's most dangerous predators, cleared her throat. "Maybe we're looking at this all wrong," she said softly. All eyes turned to her. Sarah, a pet-hit Asian woman with a quiet demeanor, seemed to shrink under the attention. But her voice grew stronger as she continued. "In my experience, even the most dangerous animals aren't evil. They're just misunderstood. What if we tried to communicate with these Void Stalkers instead of fighting them?" The room erupted in disbelieving laughter. General Stone scoffed. "Communicate? With galaxy-destroying monsters?" But President Thompson held up a hand, silencing the room. "Dr. Lee, what exactly are you proposing?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Send me. Let me try to understand them, maybe even befriend them. It's a long shot, but it's better than waiting to be destroyed." The president's eyes narrowed. "That's practically a suicide mission, Doctor." "Maybe," Sarah admitted. "But I've spent my life working with Earth's apex predators. If anyone has a chance of understanding these creatures, it's me." After hours of heated debate, a decision was made. Operation Handshake, they called it. A long-shot mission to attempt communication with the galaxy's deadliest beings. 2 weeks later, Sarah found herself aboard the HSS Peacemaker, a small, stealthy ship designed for her mission. As Earth grew smaller in the view screen, Sarah clutched a locket containing a photo of her daughter. "I'll be back," she whispered. "I promise." Captain Rodriguez, who had volunteered to pilot the Peacemaker, gave Sarah a reassuring nod. "Ready for the jump, Doc?" Sarah nodded, her heart pounding. In a flash of light, they were gone, venturing into the unknown. On the Galactic Council planet of Zorth, news of the humans' plan spread quickly. Counselor Xylop was beside himself with worry. "They're sending one person to talk to the Void Stalkers. It's madness." Grand Orator Zine, however, seemed intrigued. Perhaps this is the fresh perspective we need. These humans are young, yes, but they think differently from us. General Kraz growled. "Different won't save them when the Void Stalkers tear their ship apart." But Zine was thoughtful. "We've tried fighting. We've tried hiding. We've tried everything our combined knowledge could devise. Maybe it's time to try something impossible." As the Peacemaker made its way deeper into space, Sarah spent her time studying everything the Galactic Council knew about the Void Stalkers. It wasn't much. They appeared as shadowy, shape-shifting creatures. Their ships seemed to be living things, merging with their pilots. Every attempt at communication had been met with violence. But Sarah noticed something others had missed. There was a pattern to the Void Stalkers' attacks. They weren't random. They were territorial. "Captain," she called out one day, excitement in her voice. "I think I've found something. Can you plot the locations of all known Void Stalker attacks?" As the star map filled the screen, Sarah's theory took shape. The attacks formed a clear boundary. The Void Stalkers weren't just destroying. They were defending. "My God," breathed Captain Rodriguez. "They think they're under attack." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. "We've been going about this all wrong. We need to show them we're not a threat." Just then, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Rodriguez's face paled as he checked the sensors. "Dr. Lee," he said, his voice tight. "We've got company. Void Stalker ship, headed right for us." Sarah swallowed hard, her mouth dry. This was it. Everything she'd theorized, everything she'd trained for, came down to this moment. "Open a channel," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Let's say hello." As the Void Stalker ship loomed larger in their view screen, Sarah Lee prepared to either make first contact or become another victim of the galaxy's deadliest predators. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested on what happened next. The Void Stalker ship loomed before the HSS Peacemaker, a massive, writhing mass of shadow and starlight. Sarah Lee's heart pounded in her chest, but her voice remained steady as she spoke into the ship's communication system. "This is Dr. Sarah Lee of Earth. We come in peace and wish to communicate." Silence. Captain Rodriguez glanced nervously at Sarah. "Doctor, I don't think." Suddenly, the ship shuddered. A beam of dark energy enveloped the Peacemaker, freezing it in place. "Engines dead," Rodriguez shouted. "We're being pulled in." Sarah gripped her console, her mind racing. This wasn't how first contacts usually went in the movies. But then again, nothing about this mission was usual. As the Peacemaker was dragged into what appeared to be a cavernous docking bay, Sarah saw something that made her gasp. The inside of the Void Stalker ship was alive. Pulsing, organic walls writhed with shadowy tentacles. And there, emerging from the living ship, were the Void Stalkers themselves. They were nothing like Sarah had imagined. Each Void Stalker was a swirling mass of darkness, vaguely humanoid but constantly shifting. Where eyes should be, pinpricks of starlight glowed. Amazing. Sarah breathed. She reached for the airlock release. "Dr. Lee." Rodriguez grabbed her arm. "What are you doing? We don't know if we can breathe out there." Sarah smiled reassuringly. "Captain, if they wanted us dead, we'd be dead already. Trust me." With a hiss, the airlock opened. Sarah stepped out, her heart in her throat. The air was breathable, if a bit thin. She stood before the Void Stalkers, arms open in a universal gesture of peace. "Hello," she said simply. "I'm Sarah." The Void Stalkers' reaction was immediate and terrifying. They surged forward, surrounding Sarah in a whirlwind of shadow. Captain Rodriguez yelled from inside the ship, but Sarah stood her ground. Then, something extraordinary happened. As the shadows enveloped her, Sarah felt emotions, not her own, but alien feelings flooding her mind. Fear, anger, confusion. And underneath it all, a desperate loneliness. Sarah gasped as understanding dawned. "You're telepathic," she whispered. "You've been trying to communicate all along, haven't you?" The shadows receded slightly. One Void Stalker moved closer, its starlight eyes fixed on Sarah. Slowly, carefully, Sarah raised her hand. The Void Stalker mirrored her movement, its shadowy appendage meeting her palm. The moment they touched, Sarah's mind exploded with images and feelings. She saw the Void Stalker's home, a beautiful dark nebula teeming with life. She felt their pain as their nebula was destroyed by an expanding sun. She understood their desperate journey across the galaxy, searching for a new home, misunderstanding the actions of other species as attacks. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as the connection broke. "Oh," she said softly. "You poor things. You've been so alone." The Void Stalker tilted its head, a gesture so human-like it made Sarah smile. She turned to the ship's communication system. "Captain, contact Earth and the Galactic Council. Tell them we've made first contact, and we have a lot to talk about." Over the next few hours, Sarah worked tirelessly to establish a rudimentary form of communication with the Void Stalkers. She learned that they called themselves the Nyx, and that their ship was a living entity they called the Umbra. As Sarah shared her discoveries with Captain Rodriguez, and through him, with Earth and the Galactic Council, reactions were mixed. Many were skeptical, fear still driving their responses. But others, led by Grand Arbiter Zine, saw hope in this unprecedented breakthrough. Back on Earth, Dr. Emily Chen worked around the clock to develop technology that could facilitate communication between the Nix and other species. President Thompson prepared for the diplomatic challenges ahead, knowing that convincing the galaxy to accept the former Void Stalkers would be no easy task. As the first day of contact drew to a close, Sarah sat in quiet conversation with the Nix. Through a combination of gestures, emotions, and the few word concepts they had established, Sarah made a promise. "We'll help you find a new home," she told them, "and we'll make sure the galaxy understands you're not a threat. You're not alone anymore." The Nix's response was a wave of gratitude so powerful it brought tears to Sarah's eyes once more. As she looked out at the stars, Sarah realized that this was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, bringing together two vastly different sides of the galaxy, healing wounds and building trust. But for the first time since the Void Stalkers had appeared, there was hope in the galaxy, and it had all started with one human woman who chose understanding over fear. The days that followed first contact were a whirlwind of activity. Sarah Lee found herself at the center of a galactic storm, bridging the gap between the Nix and the rest of the universe. It was exhausting, exhilarating work. On board the Umbra, the living ship of the Nix, Sarah sat cross-legged on the pulsating floor. Around her, several Nix hovered, their starlight eyes fixed on her. Through a mixture of gestures, emotions, and the rudimentary translation device Dr. Chen had sent, Sarah was slowly teaching them about human culture. "This," Sarah said, holding up a small potted plant, "is what we call a flower. On Earth, we have millions of different kinds." The Nix's response was a wave of curiosity and wonder. One of them extended a shadowy tendril, gently touching the plant's leaves. Suddenly, the flower began to glow with a soft, otherworldly light. Sarah gasped. Did you just share energy with it?" The Nix's answer was a feeling of affirmation, tinged with sadness. Sarah understood. In their old home, the Dark Nebula, the Nix had lived in symbiosis with other life forms. They missed that connection. Meanwhile, back on Zorth, the Galactic Council was in an uproar. News of Sarah's successful communication with the Nix had spread, and opinions were sharply divided. Councillor Xylop paced the chamber, his forearms gesticulating wildly. "This is madness. These creatures destroyed entire civilizations. We can't just forgive and forget." Grand Arbiter Xine's crystalline form glimmered as she spoke. "No one is suggesting we forget, Counselor. But Dr. Lee's discoveries have changed everything." The Nix were not attacking, but defending themselves. They believed we were the aggressors. General Kraz slammed his fist on the table. "That doesn't bring back the billions they killed." "No," Xine agreed softly. "It doesn't. But continuing this cycle of violence won't bring them back either. We have a chance for peace. Real, lasting peace." As the debate raged on, Earth was facing its own challenges. The revelation that humanity's first alien contact was with a species once considered the galaxy's greatest threat had caused widespread panic. President Thompson stood before the United Nations, her voice firm. "I understand your fear. But I ask you to consider this. Throughout history, our greatest achievements have come when we chose understanding over conflict. This is our chance to not just join the galactic community, but to lead it towards a better future." Back on the Umbra, Sarah was making a breakthrough of her own. Through patient communication, she had learned that the Nix's apparent shape-shifting wasn't just a physical ability. It was their primary form of expression. "You're not just changing shape," Sarah said, excitement in her voice. "You're speaking. Your entire language is based on form and movement." The Nix swirled around her, their shapes becoming more complex, more beautiful. Sarah laughed with joy. "It's like a dance," she said, "a language of living art." As Sarah shared this discovery with Captain Rodriguez, who had remained on the Peacemaker, his eyes widened. "Dr. Lee, do you realize what this means? If we can decode their language, we can truly understand them," Sarah finished. and help others understand them too. But not everyone was excited about this progress. On a distant planet, a group of survivors from one of the civilizations destroyed in the Nexus path plotted revenge. They couldn't accept that their enemy might not have been an enemy after all. As Sarah worked tirelessly to build trust between the Nyx and the rest of the galaxy, she was unaware of the danger brewing. The survivors, calling themselves the Vengeance Coalition, were gathering weapons, ships, and allies. They were determined to destroy the Nyx, no matter the cost. Time was running out. Sarah needed to convince the galaxy to accept the Nyx before the Vengeance Coalition struck. But how could she overcome centuries of fear and mistrust? As she looked out at the stars from the Umbra's viewing portal, Sarah felt the weight of two civilizations on her shoulders. The fate of both humanity and the Nyx hung in the balance. And somewhere out there, an angry, grieving force was preparing to undo everything she had worked for. Sarah took a deep breath. The real challenge was just beginning. Sarah Lee stood before the Galactic Council, her heart pounding. The Grand Chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds. All eyes were on her. Distinguished members of the Council. Sarah began, her voice steady despite her nerves. I stand before you today to plead for understanding and peace. As Sarah spoke, holographic displays showed images of her interactions with the Nyx. The swirling, shadowy forms of the once feared Void Stalkers danced across the screens, their movements now recognizable as a complex language. The Nyx are not the monsters we thought they were, Sarah continued. They are a refugee species, desperate for a home. Their actions, though tragic, were born of fear and misunderstanding, not malice. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some counselors nodded thoughtfully, while others scowled in disbelief. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Grand Arbiter Zine's crystalline form pulsed with urgent light. We're under attack. Outside, a fleet of ships dropped out of hyperspace. Their designs were a mishmash of different alien technologies, cobbled together into fearsome war machines. The Vengeance Coalition had arrived. As panic spread through the council chamber, Sarah's mind raced. She knew she had to act fast. Please, she shouted over the chaos. Let me contact the Nyx. They can help us. General Kraz, who had been one of the staunchest opponents of peace with the Nyx, surprised everyone by backing Sarah. Do it, he growled. If they're truly allies, now's the time to prove it. Sarah rushed to a communication terminal, sending an urgent message to the Umbra. As the coalition ships opened fire on the Council's defenses, a shimmering portal opened in space. The massive form of the Umbra emerged, accompanied by a fleet of smaller Nyx vessels. What happened next left everyone in awe. The Nyx ships didn't attack the coalition fleet. Instead, they formed a living shield between the attackers and the Council planet. Coalition weapons fire was absorbed harmlessly into the Nyx's shadowy forms. Sarah's voice rang out over the Council's communication systems. Please, stop this violence. The Nyx are here to protect, not to fight. They want to make amends for the past. On the main view screen, the leader of the Vengeance Coalition appeared. His face was scared, his eyes burning with hatred. Amends. They destroyed our worlds. They killed billions. I know, Sarah said softly, and nothing can undo that pain. But more violence won't bring back the dead. It will only create more victims. As Sarah spoke, something extraordinary happened. The Nyx began to change shape, their shadowy forms coalescing into images. They showed scenes from their lost home, the beauty of their dark nebula. They showed their fear and confusion upon entering a galaxy filled with light and strange beings. And they showed their deep remorse for the harm they had caused. The coalition leader's face wavered. What are they doing? They're apologizing, Sarah explained. In the only way they know how. They're sharing their story, their pain, and their regret with you. Tears streamed down the coalition leader's face. Slowly, he gave the order for his ships to stand down. In the council chamber, silence reigned. The danger had passed, but the real challenge was just beginning. How could the galaxy move forward from here? Grand Orator Zine stepped forward, her crystalline form glowing softly. Today, we have witnessed something unprecedented. An act of aggression transformed into an opportunity for understanding. The human, Sarah Lee, has shown us a new way forward, not through force, but through empathy and communication. She turned to Sarah. Dr. Lee, you have done what none of us thought possible. You've brought peace to a conflict we believed eternal. The Council asks that you continue your work. Help us build a true understanding between all species of our galaxy. Sarah looked out at the assembled representatives, then at the screen showing the Nyx fleet and the now peaceful coalition ships. She thought of Earth, so new to this galactic community. She thought of the Nyx, finally finding acceptance after so long alone. With a deep breath, Sarah nodded. I would be honored, she said. As the council chamber erupted in applause, Sarah knew this was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, wounds to heal, trust to build. But for the first time, there was hope. Real hope for a united galaxy. And it had all started with one human choosing to understand rather than fear. In the months that followed the dramatic confrontation at the Galactic Council, Sarah Lee found herself at the center of a monumental task, forging lasting peace between the Nyx and the rest of the galaxy. It was a challenge unlike any humanity had faced before, but Sarah was determined to succeed. The newly established Galactic Reconciliation Center on the neutral planet Harmonia became Sarah's new home. Here, representatives from various species gathered to learn about the Nyx and work towards understanding. One sunny morning, Sarah stood before a diverse group of aliens. Some were tentacled, others were crystalline, and a few were even gaseous, but all shared the same wary expression as they gazed at the shadowy form of a Nyx diplomat hovering nearby. Today, Sarah began, her voice calm and reassuring. We're going to learn the basics of Nyx communication. Remember, their entire language is based on shape and movement. As Sarah demonstrated, the Nyx diplomat shifted and swirled, its form creating complex patterns. The assembled aliens watched in fascination as Sarah translated. This movement means greeting, she explained. And this one expresses hope for friendship. Slowly but surely, the aliens began to mimic the movements, their initial fear giving way to curiosity and even excitement. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was grappling with its new role in the galactic community. President Thompson addressed the United Nations, her words broadcast to every corner of the planet. We stand at a turning point in human history, she declared. We have the opportunity to be not just members of the galactic community, but leaders in promoting peace and understanding. Across the galaxy, the ripple effects of humanity's actions were being felt. On the planet Zorth, Councillor Xylop, once a fierce opponent of the Nyx, was having a change of heart. I must admit, he said to Grand Arbiter Zine, his 4 arms moving in graceful gestures, the humans have shown us a new way. Their capacity for empathy is remarkable. Zine's crystalline form shimmered with agreement. Indeed, they've accomplished in months what we couldn't in centuries. Perhaps it's time we rethink our approach to galactic diplomacy. But not everyone was convinced. On the war-torn worlds once attacked by the Nyx, reconstruction was slow and painful. Sarah visited these planets, working tirelessly to bridge the gap between the traumatized survivors and the remorseful Nyx. On one such world, Sarah stood in the ruins of a once great city. Beside her, a Nyx diplomat shaped itself into a form resembling the fallen structures. Survivors watched, their faces a mix of grief and anger. I know this is difficult, Sarah said gently. But the Nyx are here to help rebuild. They want to make amends. An old alien stepped forward, his body bearing scars from the old attacks. He looked at the Nyx for a long moment, then slowly extended a hand-like appendage. The Nyx responded by shaping part of its form into a similar appendage, and the two touched in a gesture of peace. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Back on Harmonia, Sarah received an unexpected visitor. The leader of the former Vengeance Coalition, "I was wrong about you, Dr. Lee," he said, his once hatred-filled eyes now soft with remorse. "And I was wrong about the Knicks. Your way, it's better than revenge." Sarah smiled, touching his arm gently. "Understanding is always better than fear. Thank you for giving peace a chance." As news of these successes spread, more and more species began to reach out, eager to learn from humanity's example. The Galactic Council, recognizing the unique skills humans brought to the table, created a new position: Ambassador of Interspecies Understanding. They unanimously voted to offer the position to Sarah. In a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy, Sarah accepted the role. As she took her oath, she looked out at the assembled crowd. Humans stood side by side with Knicks, former enemies now working together. Representatives from hundreds of worlds watched in person and via hologram, their faces filled with hope. "We have a long road ahead," Sarah said, her voice strong and clear. "But together, we can build a galaxy of peace and understanding. Today, we take the first step on that journey." As applause filled the chamber, Sarah felt a wave of emotion from the Knicks diplomat beside her. It shaped itself into a new form, one Sarah had never seen before. She realized, with a start, that it was the next word for family. In that moment, Sarah knew that humanity had truly found its place among the stars. 5 years had passed since Sarah Lee's appointment as the Ambassador of Interspecies Understanding. The galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined. On a beautiful morning on planet Harmonia, Sarah stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling galactic unity complex. Below her, members of countless species mingled freely. Knicks flowed gracefully alongside crystalline beings from Zorth. Humans chatted with tentacled aliens and gaseous entities. It was a sight that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. Sarah smiled, thinking back on the journey that had brought them here. It hadn't been easy, but the rewards were beyond measure. Inside the complex, a historic event was about to take place. The first Galactic Cultural Exchange Festival was set to begin, celebrating the diversity of the galaxy's species. As Sarah made her way to the main hall, she was joined by her old friend, Captain Rodriguez. "Can you believe it, Doc?" he said, grinning. 5 years ago, we were scared out of our minds meeting the Knicks. Now look at us." Sarah laughed. "We've come a long way, Captain. But there's still so much to learn." The festival was a riot of colors, sounds, and sensations. Each species had a booth showcasing their culture. The Knicks' display was particularly popular, with aliens lining up to experience their unique form of artistic communication. At the human booth, Sarah was amused to see a group of alien children fascinated by a simple earth plant. "It's called a sunflower," she explained, as the children oohed and awed at the bright yellow petals. Suddenly, a commotion near the entrance caught her attention. A new species had arrived, one that no one recognized. They were tall, luminous beings that seemed to shimmer in and out of existence. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some aliens backed away in fear, old instincts kicking in. For a moment, it seemed like the peace they had worked so hard to build might shatter. But then, something remarkable happened. A young Nyx, barely more than a child, flowed forward. It shaped itself into a pattern that Sarah recognized as a greeting. The new aliens paused, then responded with a shimmer that mimicked the Nyx's movement. Sarah felt a lump in her throat as she watched. This was why they had worked so hard. Not just for peace between existing species, but to create a galaxy where new encounters didn't have to lead to fear and misunderstanding. As the day went on, Sarah found herself in a quiet corner with Grand Arbiter Zine and Counselor Xylop. "You humans continue to surprise us," Zine said, her crystalline form glowing warmly. "Your ability to adapt and connect with others is truly remarkable." Xylop nodded, his 4 arms moving in a gesture of agreement. "I must admit, Ambassador Lee, I was skeptical at first. But you've proven that empathy and understanding are more powerful than any weapon." Sarah smiled. "We're just happy to be part of this amazing galactic community. and we have so much more to learn from all of you. As the festival drew to a close, Sarah was asked to give a speech. Standing on the stage, looking out at the sea of diverse faces, she felt a sense of awe and hope. Friends, neighbors, fellow galactic citizens, she began. Look around you. See the beauty in our differences, the strength in our unity. 5 years ago, many of us were strangers, some even enemies. Today, we stand together as friends, as allies, as a family. She gestured to the new aliens, who were now mingling happily with the others. And our family continues to grow. Let us always meet new friends with open arms and open minds. As applause filled the hall, Sarah felt a familiar presence beside her. The Nyx diplomat she had first met years ago flowed onto the stage, shaping itself into a complex, beautiful pattern. Sarah didn't need to translate. Everyone in the room understood. It was a symbol of unity, of family, of a bright future together. As she left the stage, Sarah's communicator beeped. It was a message from Earth. A new, faster-than-light ship was ready, capable of reaching previously unexplored parts of the galaxy. Sarah grinned. A new adventure was just beginning. With the lessons they'd learned and the friendships they'd forged, humanity was ready to journey even further into the stars. And whatever they found out there, Sarah knew they would face it not with fear, but with understanding and hope. The galaxy, once a place of terror and conflict, had transformed. And at the heart of that transformation was the uniquely human gift of empathy, bridging gaps between the stars.